In an incredible first-round series, the New York Knicks outlast the Philadelphia 76ers. Joel Embiid fails to get out of the first round and doesn't make a conference finals again, despite a lot of heroics from a lot of people. Plus, the Pacers get past the Bucks, even though Dame returns. We'll look ahead to Knicks-Pacers, plus the other first-round series in Cavs-Magic and Clippers-Mavericks. All that and more here on Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA, your daily source for all things NBA from the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day and being with us every day. Being an everyday or hanging out with us Monday through Friday. We do appreciate you guys being part of the community. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or if you want to check out a video version of the show, go to youtube.com/LockedOnNBA right now. Today's show is brought to you by Monopoly Go. Game off. We got to talk about Monopoly Go. This fast-paced game lets you team up with friends for tournaments to unlock awesome prizes like unique stickers for trading, cool playing pieces, and hilarious emojis for taunting your friends. So download Monopoly Go now, free on Google Play or the Apple Store. Game on. My name is Matt Moore. I'm a senior NBA writer for the Action Network, co-host of Locked On Nuggets. I'm joined by Adam Mares. He's also co-host of Locked On Nuggets. We had to swap up this week, so we wound up with Locked On Heat on Monday and Locked On Nuggets on Friday. And we will break down tonight on the show. The Knicks get a obviously massive win, advance to the second round of the NBA playoffs with a win over the Philadelphia 76ers in an absolutely bonkers series, which is a shame it didn't go 7. We'll talk about that, plus Joel Embiid's inability to get past the second round into the conference finals again. We'll talk about the Indiana Pacers getting past the Milwaukee Bucks, who got a return from Damian Lillard, but it wasn't enough as Indiana advances to play New York. Plus, we'll break down in the final segment Cavs-Magic Game 6, as well as Clippers-Mavericks Game 6, and whether or not those series will wrap up on Friday night. Adam, let's start here. So the New York Knicks get the win in Game 6. This one... stop me if you heard this one. A lot of comebacks. Knicks go up 22 in the first half. Just looks like going to be one of those Game 6 obliteration in the opposing building. Looks like it's going to be an absolute steamroll. And the Sixers just climb right back because no one was ever really out in the series until the buzzer sounded. And sometimes it felt like even after the buzzer sounded. The Sixers storm back. They get a lead. The Knicks retake the lead. The Sixers come back. The Knicks get a lead. The Sixers come back. It's back and forth at the end. It's wild. It's crazy. But in the end, Josh Hart.
That was the difference. It really did come down to one play. Like at the end, all the plays that were made, it came down to one. Josh Hart opened for 3 at the top of the key.
31% shooter this season from three-point range. 41% in the playoffs so far.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah. Josh Hart goes 3 of 5 in this game. 16 points, 14 boards, 7 assists.
That guy rules,
Josh
man.
Hart winds up being the difference as he cans that one. And the Sixers are unable to catch up despite Tyrese Maxey with another huge shot at the end. Jalen Brunson hits an and one, putting Kelly Oubre in jail with him on his hip. Does the snap
I hated
back
that call.
Okay, let's hear about that. Why did you hate that call so much?
Look, it's a foul. I just hate that is a foul. I hate that as an incentive to do that kind of move. We've gotten rid, by and large, of a lot of those type of, you're drawing fouls, you're jumping sideways, you're kicking a leg out, you're jumping backwards. We got rid of a lot of those. That one, they still in the book. And I just hated that was a major piece of this game because I just don't like it. There's certain types of fouls I just don't like.
Joel Embiid, 39 points on 12 of 25 shooting, 13 boards, 2 assists, 5 turnovers, 1 steal, 1 block, -2. Fouls out of the game on that shot, or on a foul, late on Dante DiVincenzo. Embiid returns from injury. He returns from the meniscus. He contracts Bell's palsy.
My God.
He gets a migraine in Game 5.
Okay.
Gets all the way here and once again falls short. Gonna be a lot of time to talk about the Knicks and how impressive this team is in this run. What are your thoughts kind of on Joel Embiid and how this series went for him given the circumstances?
I thought Embiid showed a lot of fight in coming back from the injury, fighting through it, playing as hard as he did, putting himself in vulnerable spots. I always say Embiid, for me, great players have to be willing to put themselves in vulnerable spots. I thought Embiid did that in this playoffs, and I don't think you can be like overly critical of him. He did have some bad fourth quarters, and I think that is one of the things that's going to stand out. I think he finishes 6 of 26 in the fourth quarter over 6 games shooting. Despite all these huge scoring performances, late in games, I thought he looked a little uncertain, a little worn down. And again, overcoming the injuries and having those injuries is part of it that you have to weigh. But that's one of the things that I think just stands out to me. And then even in this game, there were a couple plays trying to draw a foul, doesn't get the call, and it's an empty possession. And there just was a handful of those. So overall, I'm impressed with him. I thought he showed a lot of fight. I think he answered some questions, and I feel bad for him getting hurt so late in the season the way he did. But unfortunately, this was a series that was very winnable. All the games were close. All of them came down to who performed best in the final few minutes. And unfortunately, that was more often than not Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, and the Knicks.
Yeah, I mean, this one's really tough. Look, as somebody who's been critical of Embiid and the Sixers before, this one's really hard for me to really kind of pin on him because, look, they got hit with a wild Deuce McBride game in game 1 where he was plus 37. They got hit with that insane sequence of events in game 2, which was just like
crazy,
just a complete catastrophe of events. Like some of this stuff is just unexplainable.
I think it's canceled out by game 5. I think it's canceled out a little bit with Maxi's 7 points in 26 seconds or whatever.
A little bit.
Like those 2 games feel like the wrong team won both of them.
Yeah, a little bit. The Knicks lead to go up 3-1 in game 4 was like wild, unpredictable numbers. That, like, I went back and watched all the offensive rebounds, and the Knicks are a great rebounding team. They're the best offensive rebounding team in the league. But like a lot of those were just like insane caroms and just like wild, like the ball just lands in a Knicks lap and these types of things. This one's just really hard for me to kind of be like, the Sixers failed, and it feels just more like they got caught once again with like the worst series of circumstances. They should have been a higher seed if Embiid hadn't been hurt. They would have faced this team later. Embiid obviously wasn't 100%, and that's not to take anything away from the Knicks. You play who's in front of you.
Hey, you know who else wasn't 100%? The Knicks without Julius Randle for half the season.
True, that's accurate. I will ask you this as we kind of wrap up here. Where is Jalen Brunson on your guys you were most terrified of in a playoff series? Because I am having a hard time. Like, I'm like going through the list, and there's a lot of dudes. He is very high on my list currently. 41 points in this one, 12 assists, 13 of 27 from the field, 3 of 8 from 3, 12 of 16 from the free throw line. As Jalen Brunson gets the job done in 44 minutes for the Knicks.
So part of why I think it is fair to mention Embiid's struggles in the fourth quarter while trying to, again, acknowledge how much he has fought through is because the other side of this had guys that made so many big plays in the clutch. This was a series that came down to guys making big plays. Tyrese Maxey made big plays and won them some games in the series. The Knicks, though, and Jalen Brunson, you asked how terrified are you? Honestly, it's wild because I think he's a phenomenal player, but he somehow just makes 20% more of his shots in the clutch than you expect him to make. Like 20% more. He's so unbelievable. Josh Hart, by the way, you mentioned that 3-pointer. The thing, if you didn't see the game and you're listening to the show, it wasn't like he caught a set shot and went into it nice in rhythm. He kind of did like his legs get spread apart at one point. He has to regather himself. Kelly Oubre's closing out. It was a very awkward gather for him. And then he made it anyway. And that's why I think that it's so loud. This series came down to who made plays in the clutch. Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson are 2 guys that just made so many plays every game in the series in the clutch.
One guy who did not show up, and I love this guy, and so this is hard. I really want him to go somewhere else and get a fresh start. Tobias Harris was a -10 in this game, and a game decided by 3 points. 0 of 2. He took 2 shots, insane. No points, 4 boards, 3 assists. Yikes. That's
Kyle Lowry also 0 of 2. So it's 2 starters that give you a goose egg in an elimination game is just, that's tough, man.
And a game where they finally get Buddy Hield. Buddy
Hield made up for it. 6 of 9 from 3. He was on fire.
It was incredible. Incredible game. Congrats to the Knicks. We'll talk about them in the final segment as they go to face the Pacers this weekend. Up next, Dame time returns, but time runs out on the Bucks. We'll talk about that next here on Locked On NBA. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You already talked about that, but there's just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments, whether you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock, and there's so much to get, like unique stickers that you can trade with a friend to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now, free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. We'll be right back on Locked On NBA. Back here on Locked On NBA. Thanks for joining us. Matt Moore alongside Adam Mares with you on a Friday. Hope you guys had a good week. Hope you guys enjoyed the weekend. No game sevens. Maybe we'll talk about it in the final segment.
Well, real quick, Matt. Tom Thibodeau in his post-game presser. We're recording this right after the game ended. In his post-game presser, he told the guys to enjoy it till midnight. It's 12:15 already. They don't even get to enjoy it. It's on to the next one.
Better get a DeLorean. Go back in time if you want to enjoy this one. All right. So in the other game, the Indiana Pacers take on the Milwaukee Bucks. News started circulating. Hey, Dame and Giannis are real close. It's gonna be game time. It's gonna be to the wire. Giannis ultimately does not play. He was always considered more doubtful.
Right.
But Damian Lillard returns, and in the first quarter gets off to a really hot start, and the Bucks leap out to a sizable lead in that first couple of minutes, and it looks like, oh, hey, you're on the road. You can take the crowd out of it. You can take control of the series, and then the Pacers woke up and started firing threes, and that was just about it. Pacers get the win, 120-98. It was about a 12-point game back and forth until the fourth quarter, and then finally the Pacers hit them with one more run to get it to 18, and then from there on out, the Bucks pretty much knew that the series was over. Obi Toppin, 21 points tonight. He was fantastic in this one. TJ McConnell with 20. They got such balanced scoring here. 17 for Halliburton along with 10 assists. 14 from Nembhard, who had a quieter game because they kind of adjusted their coverage because Nembhard had been hurting them so much in pick and roll. They kind of shifted some of their coverage on Nembhard to try and take him out. That worked, but it freed up everybody else. Pascal Siakam gets the job done. 19 points on 9 of 15, 7 boards, 4 assists, 1 steal, and a plus 19 for Siakam. Miles Turner with a quiet night. He finally missed some threes, 1 of 6 from the field, 0 of 3 from 3, but they got enough to get it done. And the Bucks offense did not have enough to keep up, especially the bench was just non-existent. I think this is, after the game, Dame says usually the team that advances is the healthier one, essentially is what he said. And this is, I think, probably the optimum outcome for the Bucks if they were going to lose, right? Because nobody thinks the Pacers are genuinely better than the Bucks. I like the matchup a lot for Indiana in this series, but nobody thinks like if you match up team quality contender status, the Pacers are above Milwaukee. So you can kind of be like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And obviously the injuries, Giannis was out. They lose Dame for 2 games. That's enough to be the difference here. Just, hey, they had a shot. They could have been there. They were the 3 seed, but Giannis and Dame got hurt. That's not a problem with the roster or the coaching or anything else. We can just push it to next year. If you're the Bucks trying to make sure there's no panic and that you can just kind of run it back, this was an ideal outcome.
That's an interesting perspective on it. I almost just feel like this is a throwaway. If I don't know what information you can glean from this, and who knows what the future holds for Milwaukee. But I don't really have a perspective on what they could or should have been. Whether there's so many things that go into making a team, and it's not just the pieces fit. There's also the chemistry of it. Are they all rowing in the same direction? All those different things. I have no idea. Milwaukee never had a chance to really gain that kind of momentum between the changing of the coaches, the injuries that they suffered. Middleton, looking really good in this playoff run for the most of it, but not necessarily looking like that all year. I just think it's hard to understand what the Bucks are. And if I was a Bucks front office, I think it'd be an impossible summer to really know what you have to go and what direction you have to go.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is you don't want to have to be faced with any sort of tough decisions. Cause like, I'll just say like, look, the defense was never good this year.
Yeah.
It wasn't terrible. It wasn't bottom 10. It was better than Indiana's, but it was never good. And it wasn't the status of what you expect from the Milwaukee Bucks. And that was true before Adrian Griffin was hired, or before Adrian Griffin was fired. That was true after Adrian Griffin was fired. It was true in the playoffs. Like, they did not have the defensive competency to get stops. And the answer will be like, well, they were missing their a former 2-time DPOY, and that's absolutely true. But from a defensive systemic perspective, the Bucks looked slow in the series. Like, I would probably walk out of the series being like, we got to get younger, we got to get more athletic, we need upgrades. We can't have like we can't have like Danilo Gallinari out there in a rotation.
I mean, they weren't planning on that either. I don't think.
Fair enough. But even then, you can't have you can't be like,
that's true.
Who's your perimeter defender? Malik Beasley.
I know. Yeah, they had some gaps at the guard spots for sure.
Yeah, and so that to me is like a key takeaway here. It should be is like, hey, through everything, despite all the things that went wrong this year, you got the 3 seed. You had an absolutely elite offense, and you could have made a run, but you got hurt. So like, capitalize on that. Be like, man, I've got a reprieve from this, a do-over, to be like, all right, we can toss that. You're right. We can toss it out.
Yeah.
One out and go back, but use that as an opportunity to be like, how can we get better now? We made the Dame trade super late. We had not built the roster around it. Let's figure it out going forward. I still have concerns about Doc Rivers, but I think that's a not terrible way. Again, I'm not saying like this is better than winning. It's not. But if you're going to lose, this is the way that you want to go out.
This is the final year of Embiid's 20s. He will be a 30-year-old player next year. Joel Embiid, same thing. Now they enter their 30s. So I just think there's something that comes with that turning into your 30s that makes you realize how short the windows are. I'm not saying it's over for Milwaukee. I'm saying that the sense of urgency now, you see that this year felt like a wasted year with all how tumultuous it was, how much things were changing. And it has to be on your mind going forward of, hey, how do we make this stable? Because to win, you're going to have to find stability over the next couple of years. On the other side, though, I thought the Pacers, they have a lot of guys. Nembhard really impressed me. He's a guy that kind of stands out. And then I think it's hilarious. The TJ McConnell, Obi Toppin, I don't know if that's going to be effective. In fact, I'll go ahead and say I don't think it'll be nearly as effective in the next round as it was in this one. But it was fun that those guys who all year were such a big part of that team were able to have a moment sort of in the elimination going off the way they did.
TJ McConnell's been phenomenal all year. So he's just such a big part of their team, honestly, like their bench and their bench is really deep and is really effective. They won't have an edge in the next series because the Knicks don't play any bench, but in like the 3 minutes that Miles McBride plays, maybe they can get an edge. You were not impressed with the Pacers. I think most people weren't impressed with the Pacers. The Pacers were pretty much what I thought they would be, which is like, I like them in the series matchup a lot because of how they've attacked the Bucks all year and the kind of personnel that they have. And I expected them to have some real growing pains because Tyrese Halliburton's never been in the playoffs before. Right. This team added Pascal Siakam at the deadline. They've been playing together for 2 months with a lot of injuries thrown in there as well. Miles Turner's been in the playoffs a few times, but not a serious run. Andrew Nembhard hasn't played in the playoffs. Obi Toppin hasn't played consistently in the playoffs. He had the one run with the Knicks, I guess 2 runs with the Knicks. Ben Shepherd played 19 minutes in this game. Ben Shepherd,
love that guy, by the way.
Yeah, he's really good. So like there's just a lot of inexperience. So I'm not surprised that the Pacers struggled. I think the fact that they were able to get the win, and you can definitely say like it's just because of injuries, but there's a lot of ways that this could have gone sideways. I think for them, even with the injuries, given how tough Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez are, and the Pacers were able to get out of it, it's a good first step for them.
Do you give them a shot next round against the Knicks?
I do. I don't necessarily think I'm going to pick them, but I'm not just like, oh, the Knicks are going to smash them, because I am just kind of like, I don't know, man. Like the Pacers just can hit a lot of threes. Like the Pacers could just like outrun you. And if you play for Tom Thibodeau and you're playing 45 minutes a night, you know what you don't want to do? You don't want to run up and down the floor as fast as the Indiana Pacers make you go.
That's a good point.
Now
the counter fight.
The counter of that is that the Indiana Pacers are going to get rebounded by about 50 every game.
Yeah,
that's a big problem. But I am kind of like, I am not as certain that the Pacers are drawing dead. I'll do the work on the series coming up over the next couple of days, but I'm not sure that they're drawing dead. Do you think they are?
Man, it's tough. I mean, look, I think the Knicks are going to win the series. Are they drawing dead though? Are the Pacers drawing dead? Not drawing dead, but I don't like their chances.
All right. Up next, we'll preview the weekend's games, including Friday night's game 6s between the Orlando Magic and Cleveland Cavaliers and the Dallas Mavericks trying to close out the Los Angeles Clippers. Plus, we'll look ahead to the Minnesota Timberwolves taking on the defending champion Denver Nuggets. All that and more up next on Locked On NBA. Passion, drive, and patience, the forming for winning championships, is also what keeps you ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. We'll be right back on Locked On NBA. Back here on Locked On NBA. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us on a Friday. Matt Moore alongside Adam Mares. Back to our typical schedule next week. Well, probably not, because I think Nope. Nope. I'm not going to be around on Monday because the Nuggets play game 2 on Monday. So, yeah, another disruption. I'll be around sometime next week. Adam, Friday night, we've got two. Well, let me put this. We got one massive game, and then also the Cavs and Magic play. I don't mean to be dismissive.
Man, get out of here. I'm excited about that one.
All right, okay.
Get on my level.
Great, let's do it. Cavs-Magic. Cavs at the Magic, game 6. Cavaliers stave off a run from the Magic in game 5. Get the win. Chance to close it out. An inexperienced team, but man, JB Bickerstaff in playoff road games has been rough. He has not won a playoff road game yet. Magic obviously shooting a lot better at home. What are your thoughts on game 6 between Cavs and Magic?
Magic looked incredible at home. I mean, they were meaningfully different there. And a lot of this has to do with they just don't score the ball well, and you need guys to make shots. Jalen Suggs, I expect to have a big game here. Franz Wagner, I expect to have a bigger game here. And then, of course, Paolo Banchero. So this is a series. I know it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek because nobody thinks these teams are going very far. Obviously, you match up with the Celtics in the next round. That's probably the end of the road for either team. But there is something fun about it. Means a lot to both of these teams in terms of where they are. For Cleveland, you've been at it a couple of years. You don't want to go home in the first round, a disappointment like this again. And then for the Magic, there is something to winning a series. There's a checkpoint. Get to the playoffs, win a series, get to the conference finals, get to the finals, win a championship. It feels like all of those are different experiences. So if the Magic can force a game 7, that just would be such a great experience for their young core. And I think for even their front office will learn a lot about who are the guys that looks good in those moments.
Teams that won game 5 to go up 3-2 have won game 6 on the road 61% of the time since 2003. Not a huge margin, but
a noteworthy one.
A notable one. That's tough for road teams. It's a good number for road teams. They're usually the better squad because they had home court.
That's a great stat, by the way.
I think it's Orlando's offense looked really good for 2 games, and the question is just like, can they do it again? I really want to think that the Cavaliers get this done and close this out because they should have been able to find a way to win one of these in Orlando. I feel like with how low Orlando's floor is, and the fact that they couldn't gives me a lot of hesitation here. It makes me think this is probably going 7, just because I don't feel like I can trust the Cavs to get it done. Like that to me is like a lot of this is like, do you have the type of team that goes on the road and closes out an opposing team's season on the road, especially one that's a scrappy and plays together like this in Orlando? I will say this, a lot of positives for Orlando, win or lose here. Like most of it was found money, but you got to see like Paolo learning how to navigate a late game situation. You've gotten to see him like navigating multiple levels of defense. Franz Wagner refound his shot, which was a nice like thing for him to discover at the very last minute.
At least for a game, yeah.
Yeah. And like it one of the things it does is it kind of educates you on what Paolo can and can't do.
I agree.
What this team can't. Jalen Suggs has been a gamer the way
Yeah,
that
that's my guy, man. Yep.
Sometimes those high level defenders get into the playoffs and it just turns out like, oh no, they just tried really hard. And like Suggs is legit. Suggs is like a legit, like he is a Josh Hart level dog. That's how all dogs.
I was about to compare those two guys. I was sitting here thinking if you could put those two guys, who else would be on this team? Like if you give me that as your 2-3, you could build a team of just this guy.
Yeah. You could
Lou
have
Dort. I
Lou
think
Dort,
I'm gonna have Lou Dort there.
Lou Dort's a dog for sure. For sure.
Not losing any games with this group.
Yeah. So I just don't really have. I think this is a great opportunity for Orlando, but they push it to 7. Like everything's gravy. They didn't get wiped off the map in round 1, right? If they had gotten swept or gentlemen swept in round 1, there's probably a lot of like, oh boy, nice season, but you're really far away. And instead it's like, no, we can compete in the playoffs. We just got to figure out how to do the thing where you throw the ball through the net thing. Like as long as if we can figure that out by adding a guard, which that's going to be a big challenge for them, that they're in pretty good shape. Meanwhile, Los Angeles has to travel to Dallas. Dallas with a chance to finally.
We haven't talked about this, you and I. I'm curious your thoughts on this one.
Finally beat the Los Angeles Clippers.
What happened though? This is the question I want to ask you, man. Paul George and Harden were so incredible in Game 4. What the heck happened? How do you have Game 4 and then follow that up with Game 5?
They do not have good game plan discipline, and I don't know whether that's stars or coaching, and I don't know whether that is, but they don't. They once again went to not running pick and rolls. If you want the tactical side, they ran. Do what?
Sorry, go on.
The Mavericks played in the previous, like, I don't remember how much of this was like throughout 4 games. I think the number was they played like 44 minutes across the previous 4 games with Maxi Kleber at power forward next to one of their centers, and they ran it for 34 minutes in Game 5. And that pivot to big ball by the Mavericks just shut down the paint. They had the Clippers had no way. And a large part of that is the Clippers are then faced with, okay, well, then we'll shoot threes, but they have to play. I don't know, they have to, but they are playing Russell Westbrook, and Russ is open in the corner, and your spacing is just frozen. Yeah. And so, like, they need a dynamic shooting performance from somebody, or for PJ Tucker to come in and fit next to him in a big ball 4 combo. Ty Lue needs to make I'll say this. Everyone loves to praise Ty Lue, and I think he's a really good coach. But sometimes there's been a lot, like Lakers fans and Suns fans are both praying they lose so that they can go get Ty Lue. And I'm kind of like, but he would have lost to Jason Kidd, man. This is a big spot, I think, for Ty Lue. Ty Lue needs to come up with a way to counter this. I know that they don't have Kawhi Leonard. I get it. But you have Paul George. You have James Harden. You have a good roster. Like Eric Spoelstra, we have enough. The Heat did not have enough. The Clippers have enough. They got to find a way to win this game.
I don't know if they're going to. I like what I saw from the Mavs defensively in the last one. I like the intensity that they got out of Kyrie and Luka in the second half. And I just feel like I've been waiting for Luka to look like himself. He did finally in this last Game 5, and I expect him to look like that in a closeout Game 6. That's my prediction. I mean, I would predict that series is that game is a comfortable Dallas win in Game 6.
Okay.
What would you say?
I think tight Mavericks win is where I go.
Tight Mavericks win?
Yeah. Okay. Particularly, I think it's probably, I think it's probably going to feel a lot like the Sixers game. Like Sixers had a chance to win.
Man, that was as close as it gets. Wait, who's the Josh Hart in this? Is it Josh Green? Is he hit the 3 at the top of the game?
No, it's Dante Exum. That's
Dante Exum 3 to put the nail in the coffin. All right, there you go. You heard it here first.
Yeah, or a Derek Lively dunk. It's probably Derek Lively, actually.
Well, a Derek Lively dunk, I expect that.
Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of narratives for the Clippers after this one, but again, same kind of deal where it's going to be like with the Bucks, where it's just it sucks that we are deprived of seeing these great players play because of the injuries. It sucks because the games are worse. It sucks because the other teammates have to like suffer through those games shorthanded. But the other thing that's really hard is like you don't get to really make any judgments. The Clippers signed Kawhi. If they lose this game, it's very easy to just be like, well, we didn't have Kawhi. And I'm just always kind of like, you need to reckon with like these kind of things. Like this, I will say this Mavericks team is not like this indomitable force. Good team.
I agree. You know what? First round, I feel like the first round of the playoffs, there's a lot of teams that are, I mean, Denver falls in this category as well. If that's all you judge them by, you would say not impressed. But we'll see if round 2 looks different. If Dallas is to advance, we'll see if they look different, if they get some of their mojo back. Because I agree with you. Right at the moment, I have less confidence than I did 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, a lot of this is like Luka was dealing with some sort of illness on top of his knee being
and he looked different in game 5. So I always roll my eyes at that, to be honest with you, Matt. If I'm being perfectly honest, I roll my eyes at that because I just think almost every team has a guy that's banged up. You don't know half the story. Most of these guys don't even tell you about what's going on, in their personal life or physically. So I kind of roll my eyes when it's like, he was sick. He was sick though, man. He was clearly sick. Okay.
My favorite is they always say it after they lose. That's my favorite. Is it's always like, or reported of like,
or you have the giant wrap on your wrist when you come to the podium afterwards. Like, oh, did you guys see that? Yeah, I didn't want to say anything.
Yeah, I don't want to say anything, but now just so you're aware. Which hey, like that's how this goes. Nuggets versus Wolves on Saturday. I'll be there at Ball Arena. You coming for that one?
Nope. I'll be in the studio.
All right, so. I will say this, that I have picked Nuggets in 6, and yet I am taking the Minnesota Timberwolves in game 1. So somehow I think that the Denver Nuggets are going to win 4 out of 5 from the Minnesota Timberwolves, but this is a very me prediction of overcomplicating it. But
you don't want to double down on your preseason prediction that Denver would trail 3-1 and come back in a series this year? This is not the one?
Plenty of time for that, my man. Plenty of time for that.
I can't wait. I can't wait for that prediction. It's going to be the best.
Time for that. This isn't the 3-1 series.
All right. I love that. Later. The 0-1 series, not the 3-1.
Yeah, the 0-1 series. Yeah. Do you think that the Nuggets take care? I mean, look, the Nuggets have been absolute beasts at home, and I think there's probably going to be a lot of focusing after how they don't think that they play well versus the Lakers, and I think they know they're going to play better. It was kind of curious because like practice today for the Nuggets, not to go locked on Nuggets here, but a lot of words of like, oh yeah, no, we took Monday and Tuesday off, or we took Tuesday and Wednesday off, and then Thursday we had like a light session, just kind of putting in some game plans and stuff. And so I'm kind of like running out of time here to put in like a serious a lot of stuff in here, but I guess they're going to do a lot of work on Friday.
Well, to be fair, Matt, these teams have played each other in this configuration 1,000 times.
Yeah,
there's only so many adjustments. I mean, basketball's not that complicated, but I did have the same thought today when I thought, okay, light practice and you only worked on your own stuff, not on Minnesota yet. Okay.
Best of luck to you.
By the way, 7:00 Eastern, that game on Saturday. So the schedule just dropped.
I'm going to get home at like a reasonable hour. What a win for me for the first time in a long time. All right, it's going to do it for Locked On NBA. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you guys being with us. If you want more from this duo, you can catch us on Locked On Nuggets as the Nuggets attempt to try and repeat as champions. Appreciate you guys being with us. We'll be back on Monday, recapping all of the action with Jackson Gatlin. See you guys again next time. Make sure to check out youtube.com/LockedOnNBA. We'll see you again on Locked On NBA.